Are you wondering if the Iraqi dinar is being reformed to lose value? Think again. What if I told you the entire plan is actually the opposite, that everything is pointing toward a stronger, internationally recognized, more valuable dinar? Stick around, because this could change everything you think you know. Hey everyone, welcome back to Iraqi Dinar Updates, where we dive deep into the latest developments, insights, and analysis surrounding the Iraqi dinar, its reform process, and what it all means for the future of Iraq and its currency. If you're someone who's been watching this space closely, or even if you're new, this update is something you won't want to miss. Let's get into it. Let's be clear about something right up front. The reform of the Iraqi dinar is not about devaluing it. That's a misconception that continues to swirl around in some circles, but if you take a closer look if you really pay attention to what's happening economically, politically, and behind closed doors, it becomes increasingly obvious that the goal is to strengthen the dinar. This isn't about weakening Iraq's national currency. In fact, it's quite the opposite. There's a quiet but powerful movement happening. Some would even call it a reset or a realignment. Iraq has been positioning itself, step by step, toward reintegrating into the international financial system. This includes modernizing their banking infrastructure, building up foreign reserves, and enforcing anti-corruption measures. All of this supports a future where the dinar can stand stronger on its own. So, why would anyone believe that the reform is to make the dinar less valuable? Here's what many people overlook. When a currency is pegged like the dinar has been up, it's essentially locked into a fixed exchange rate, often tied to the US dollar. This can create stability, yes, but it also limits flexibility. Iraq has been using this peg for years, which has helped provide some economic control during unstable times. But now, the country is moving out of that survival phase and into a phase of growth. That's why there's so much talk about the pegging, because in order to unlock the currency's full value, it needs to float. Floating the currency means letting the market decide its value based on supply and demand, not arbitrary central bank policy. This can be scary for some, but it also opens the door to enormous potential upside, especially when a country is sitting on some of the largest oil reserves in the world, has increasing foreign investment interest, and is cleaning up its financial system to meet international standards. Let's think logically here. Iraq has gone 2 years of war, sanctions, corruption, and external control. But despite all of that, they've continued to build reserves, settle international debt, and engage with the IMF and World Bank. Why would they go through all this effort just to devalue their currency? That's not how economic reform works. You don't go through intense structural reform just to diminish the strength of your own financial symbol. Here's something else to consider. Iraq's recent moves have hinted that the dinar may already be depegged, or at least moving in that direction. We're seeing more transparency in forex reporting, increased compliance with SWIFT and FATF, and even more public discussion around the mechanisms that would support a float. It's like everything is being set up in the background for a major shift. So yes, in my opinion, the dinar is right there. It's in position. Everything that's been building up is now reaching a breaking point or launching point, depending on how you look at it. The financial system is aligning. The central bank has made public comments about the desire for a stable but market-driven rate. Add to that the fact that Iraq's economy is diversifying, its GDP is improving, and its relationships with neighboring countries and international entities are strengthening. All of this feeds into a stronger dinar. But here's where things get interesting. Some people still think this is all just speculation. And that's fair. We should be cautious, and we should look at facts. But when the facts start stacking up in favor of a revaluation, or at least a correction toward fair market value, it's hard to ignore the signals. It's not about hype. It's about reading between the lines and understanding how currency reforms work on a macro level. Ask yourself, when a nation strengthens its economy, rebuilds its infrastructure, clears out corruption, and engages in long-term trade partnerships, does it usually devalue its currency? It usually sees its currency rise in value as a reflection of internal strength and external confidence. That's the direction I see Iraq heading. And when the time comes to pair the dinar with other currencies on the open market, that's when we'll really know we've turned a corner. The ability to float doesn't just happen overnight. It requires groundwork, negotiation, transparency, and confidence. And honestly, I think Iraq is already much closer to that point than most people realize. So let's pull all of this together. The reform is not about weakening the dinar, it's about preparing it to operate independently and competitively. The idea is to allow it to find its true value through a floating mechanism. That means Iraq is no longer looking to prop it up artificially. Instead, it's creating an environment where the dinar can earn its value based on economic strength, natural resources, and investor confidence. It's a bold strategy, but it's also a smart one. Pegged currencies can only go so far. At some point, especially when a country is ready to open up to the world financially, it has to let go of the crutches. That's what we're seeing now. Iraq is slowly letting go, not recklessly, but with deliberate intention. Of course, there are risks. Floating a currency doesn't always lead to a dramatic rise. It depends on timing, market sentiment, and political stability. But all signs indicate that Iraq is planning for this to go in a very specific direction. They're not floating blindly. They're floating with purpose, and with enough reserve backing to defend the currency if necessary. That's what responsible monetary policy looks like. So in the end, when people ask, is this reform about making the dinar less valuable? I tell them absolutely not. It's about making it more valuably naturally, gradually, and sustainably. It's about moving away from artificial controls and stepping into the world stage with a currency that reflects the true wealth and potential of Iraq. And while we can't predict the exact day or hour this shift will occur, we can say with confidence that the steps are being taken. The pieces are moving. And everything is aligning for a future where the Iraqi dinar is no longer just a local currency, but a respected, recognized symbol of Iraq's renewed economic strength. Thanks for tuning into Iraqi Dinar Updates. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss our future updates. We'll continue following the trends, the facts, and the moves behind the scenes to keep you informed. The road ahead for the dinar is exciting, and you won't want to miss a single step. Until next time, stay sharp and stay hopeful.